is Friday, so remember at some point today you need to type out Acts 4:12 from memory and attach it to LMS. That's your memory verse for this week. Acts 4:12. Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to men by which we must be saved. Today we're just going to do Acts 18. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth, where he would have established a church. The letter that he wrote back to the church of Corinth would have been Corinthians. There he met a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because Claudius, so at this point we know Claudius is the emperor of Rome at this time. It's now Emperor Claudius. Had ordered all the Jews to leave Rome. So we see a mention here of some of the persecution that's going on of the Jews as well as the Christians by the Romans. Paul went to see them, and because he was a tent maker, as they were, he stayed and worked with them. So we see here mention of the fact that not only is Paul a Roman citizen, not only is Paul a Pharisee, Paul was also a tent maker. And that's what his profession was, what his job was. And that he could have, as a missionary, just depended upon the different churches to take care of him. But he didn't. Instead, he continued to do his work as a tent maker, so that he could support himself, as well as doing all the missionary work. Every Sabbath he reasoned in the synagogue, trying to persuade Jews and Greeks. When Silas and Timothy came from Macedonia, Paul devoted himself exclusively to preaching, instead of doing any of the tent making now, because he has other people to help support him financially, testifying to the Jews that Jesus was the Christ. But when the Jews opposed Paul and became abusive, he shook off his clothes and said, "Your blood be on your own heads. I'm clear of my responsibility. From now on, I'll go to the Gentiles." Once again, following this pattern. He would go to a new town. He would first go to the synagogues. The Jews would reject him. He'd go to the Gentiles. Then Paul left the synagogue and went next door to the house of this guy whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, a worshiper of God. Crispus, the synagogue ruler, and his entire household believed in the Lord, and many of the Corinthians who heard him believed and were baptized. One night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision. "Don't be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent. For I am with you, and no one is going to attack and harm you, because I have many people in this city." So Paul stayed there for 1.5 years, teaching them the word of God. And so then the Jews made a united attack, brought him into the court. This man they charged as persuading the people to worship God in ways contrary to the law. Just as Paul was about to speak, Gallio said to the Jews, "If you Jews are making a complaint, it would be reasonable to listen to you. But since it involves questions about words, settle the matter yourself." Skipping ahead, you can read all of that. Paul stayed in Corinth for a while. Then he left, accompanied by Priscilla and Aquila. They went to Ephesus, where Paul left Priscilla and Aquila. He himself went into the synagogue, like always, and reasoned with them. When they asked him to spend more time, he declined, but he said, "I will come back if it's God's will." Then he went on to Ephesus. After spending some time in Antioch, he heads on. Meanwhile, a Jew named Apollos, a native of Alexandria, came to Ephesus. He was a learned man with a thorough knowledge of the Scriptures. He had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and he spoke with great fervor and taught about Jesus accurately, but he didn't know the whole story. He began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Priscilla and Aquila heard them, they invited him into their home and taught them the whole story, everything about Jesus, so that he would be more informed and could therefore teach others better. And that's pretty much chapter 18. I'll post later what your memory verse for next week is. So that is Acts 18. Remember, sometime between now and when you go to bed Sunday night, you'll type up one really good paragraph telling me about the 8 chapters 11 through 18 that we've covered this week in the videos. See you next week.